Though short, Thops' questline was incredibly impactful and resonated with me. Today I want to explain why. You will find the sorcerer in Liurnia at the cozy church of Irith, and he will immediately solicit you.
You're tarnished, aren't you? Then perhaps you could spare some runes. Believe it or not, I studied glintstone sorceries at the Academy of Rea Lucaria. For a small donation, I'd be happy to share my knowledge.
This first impression is quite humorous. He asks you for 10 runes in exchange for insights into his studies at the Academy. 10 runes isn't a large sum whatsoever. That's how much selling a clump of moss will net you. But it does set the tone for his character and the theme of modesty, which we will return to many times in this video. So once you pay his small cover charge, he will introduce himself and keep his promise, albeit with a caveat.
My name is Thops. Presuming you're interested, I can teach you sorceries as promised, only none of them are particularly great.
As you navigate to his shop, this is what Thops has to offer. Players who chose the astrologer starting class or bought spells from Sorceress Selen may find Thops' inventory redundant. Glintstone Pebble and Glintstone Arc are spells with which you begin the game as a magic user. You find Selen in Limgrave offering these 2 spells, plus another 4 right from the get-go, double the inventory much earlier in the game. So you already know 2/3 of his repertoire and are now down 10 runes. Who does this guy think he is? Well, he's not a liar. He did say he would share his knowledge before you bought in, and despite his modest offerings, his willingness to share all he knows is quite endearing. This is also shown in his self-depreciating humour. If you return to him after purchasing from his shop, he will refer to his spells as the following.
You're most welcome to any of my anemic little spells.
The word anemic is usually used as an adjective for anemia, the condition where you produce fewer red blood cells, symptomized by feeling constantly weak and tired. But in this context, anemic spells could mean not powerful spells, and Thops knows this. He knows they are weak. Glintstone Pebble is literally described as being the first spell you learn when you start practicing magic as a complete beginner. Thops is painfully aware of his limitations, which is refreshing. However, it does make you pity him a little bit. His open acknowledgement of inadequacy, juxtaposed by his enthusiasm and willingness to share all he knows with you. Moreover, Thops uses a derogatory term to describe himself on multiple occasions.
I never imagined that a Bluntstone like myself would have the chance to play teacher.
A Bluntstone. Presumably this is a cruel play on words derived from the word glintstone. Many of the glintstone items and spells are characterized by their pointiness. After all, they are splintered shards from the stars, jagged and sharp. Sharp does not only mean a fine point, but also in the context of describing a person's qualities, meaning that they are quick, perceptive, and intelligent. And what is the antonym of sharp? Blunt. Blunt implies dullness, the opposite of sharpness, an insulting nickname to ridicule Thops for being slower than the other sorcerers, seemingly not as intelligent. A blunt stone. Now, I don't think this is a term that Thops coined himself. I think he heard other people call him this. And if this is true, the worst part is that because of this repeated exposure to the name, Thops internalized it so that now he believes it himself.
I know it. I'm a Bluntstone. I'm a Bluntstone. I don't even have a pebble's worth of power. Is this why Bluntstones always finish last?
I am inclined to believe that this was a nickname his classmates or peers at the academy called him, mainly because in that last line it says, "Is this why Bluntstones always finish last?" Bluntstones is plural. Gives me the image of an academy teacher referring to him as such. There he is, Thops the Bluntstone, or classmates whispering to each other, "Don't ask him, he's a Bluntstone." You get the idea. But this is only something I infer. Thops himself has nothing negative to say about his peers or the academy. In fact, he sounds quite proud.
You've seen that structure to the north, towering over the water. That's the Academy of Rea Lucaria, where we study glintstone sorceries. Only its doors have been closed for quite some time now. After they declared they wouldn't interfere with the shattering, the Academy cast repelling seals on the east gate leading to the capital, and the south gate leading here.
This explains why you cannot enter the Academy at present. The sorcerers chose not to participate in the fallout of the shattering and sealed themselves inside their grounds. However, Thops happened to be leaving the Academy just as this decision was finalised and took an unknowing one-way trip into the wilderness. And he has been stuck outside his place of study for an undetermined but extended amount of time.
When they cast the seals, I'd just popped out. And now I'm uprooted from my place of learning.
Now, we do have an idea why Thops left the Academy in the first place. Do you remember earlier I mentioned Thops' shop and how 2/3 of it is redundant? Well, what about the other third, the last spell? A glintstone sorcery called Starlight. And it is granted to sorcerers who depart from the Academy to embark on journeys. The stars are never far from a sorcerer's side. This corroborates that Thops left the Academy for a reason, either an excursion or research mission outside the grounds. Also, I think I'm right in saying this, but this spell is exclusive to Thops' shop. I don't think it drops or is sold anywhere but here by him. Now, the actual effect of the spell is akin to the lantern. It illuminates the area around you for a short time, but it does expire, whereas the lantern does not. The lantern also does not cost any FP to use. As a side note, Starlight used to cost 12 FP and just last 1 minute. However, it was buffed in patch 1.07. The cost was reduced to 9 FP and the duration tripled to 3 minutes. And you may be asking, why would I use Starlight when I can just turn on my lantern and not worry about FP or casting time? Why would I do that when I can do the better version? And if you're asking that, you've discovered this video's crux. What is the point of Thops? Sounds a little mean, but trust me, this question will return later. So, despite Thops being positioned outside the Academy's sealed gates, he knows a way inside.
Why not find yourself a glintstone key? Without one, you can't pass through the Academy.
The seals of the Academy can be bypassed if you have a magical key. However, only 2 keys exist within the game, and one of them is inside the Academy, the place where you need a key to enter in the first place. The reason for the scarcity of the keys is likely a combination of game design and narrative purposes. Their rarity ensures the safety of the Academy. If every sorcerer had a key, the seals would be less effective if everyone could walk in and out as they please. Furthermore, each key is uniquely bound to its owner. Once used, it can never be passed on to another. Like I said, for security, you can't share or steal someone else's key. At least, not from a living user. Only death will release the key's grip on its wielder, so that another may claim its power. This is why the only 2 keys are both found on corpses. Their former masters have perished, allowing you to use the key. Thops, who raised the idea of acquiring a key in the first place, is familiar with their intricacies.
And if you find an extra glintstone key, perhaps, once you've tied up all your loose ends, and I can be very patient, would you consider donating it to me? I know it. I'm a Bluntstone. Nary a hint of talent for sorcery. But still, my place is at the Academy.
He humbly requests you to give any potential spare key to him, as he is aware you would claim the first one. He asks very courteously, but you can still sense his unwavering resolve to claim his place at the Academy. He acknowledges his perceived lack of magic potential, but refuses to resign himself to a new life after his accidental banishment. His longing to resume his studies outweighs his self-doubt, and he is determined to reclaim his rightful place as a Rea Lucarian sorcerer and student. So, only 2 keys are accessible in the game. A fearsome glintstone dragon guards the first, Its previous master seemingly perished trying to fight, study, or loot it. Interestingly, if you try to offer this first key to Thops, he will outright refuse.
So you found yourself a Glintstone key, but I certainly can't take it from you. That key belongs to you. By rights, you should use it for yourself. It's true. I wish to return to my place of study, but that's no excuse to impose upon others. Oh, is this why Bluntstones always finish last?
The last line did make me chuckle a little bit. It does echo the sentiment of nice guys finish last, which has a couple of different meanings depending on the context, but can be summarised as follows. If you keep bending over backwards to help others, you won't get very far in life compared to someone who only looks out for themselves, which is an incredibly cynical statement and a very reductive mindset to have. Still, Thops realises here that by sacrificing his priority to get back into the academy, he may not be able to achieve this now because he was trying to be nice, pleasing someone else instead of putting himself first, which would have been taking the key from you. Once you enter the academy, traverse its perilous halls, and balance along its rooftops, if you find just the right place, you can drop precisely down to the second and final key, meant for Thops. As a side note, it's mysterious who the previous owner of this key was. Maybe they took a wrong turn, realised there was no more floor beneath them, and plummeted onto the light fixture below. They were studying Glintstone magic after all, not gravity magic. Regardless, fate has deigned that this key should now rest in Thops' possession, and his reaction to being bestowed is filled with genuine astonishment and gratitude.
Are you certain? You're willing to give your Glintstone key to me? My, oh my. Thank you. Thank you dearly. Now I can go back to the academy to resume my study of Glintstone sorceries. And the very stars.
As he closes his eyes and tilts his head back, hands clasped to his chest, holding the key tightly, can't help but wonder how long he has been here. Isolated in this dilapidated church, no friends, teachers, or a means of returning home. The universe seemed to have been conspiring against him, his Bluntstone moniker following him and reminding him of his inadequacy at magic, coupled with quite literally being shut out of the academy. It was probably just unfortunate timing with Thops' departure and the sealing of the gates. However, I do wonder if the sorcerers deliberated on locking him out. Perhaps they put up the seals without a second thought, simply having forgotten about Thops outside the walls. But now it comes to Thops' triumphant return for him to reunite with his peers.
Thank you dearly. With your blessing, I will depart for the Academy of Rea Lucaria. Or perhaps one day you'll pay me a visit? Who knows? I may be a decorated sorcerer by then.
Thops will now move from the Church of Irith to Rea Lucaria Academy. But whereabout? Is he reading in the Great Halls, strolling through the gardens, or engaging in academic debate with his peers? No. Thops resides in a dark, damp rock face, sitting at a simple table. Some pieces of parchment and glintstones are laid out in front of him, seemingly in mid-study. Only a couple feet away is the schoolhouse classroom site of grace, indicating this is where the students came to take classes. Yet Thops is the only one stationed outside the classroom, with only scraps to utilise. In contrast, the sorcerers inside of this lavish, well-lit interior, glintstones from floor to ceiling, and unending bookcases. Of course, this is viewing it from the perspective that Thops was shunned and had no choice but to take this unfavourable seat. But he could have wanted to sit here and study. He took what he needed from the classroom, nothing excess, and sat on the dim and quiet outcrop to study alone, which he preferred. And this is when two things happened. Thops discovered something incredible, and Thops died. Sadly, you do not get a reunion with Thops at the academy. When you arrive at the schoolhouse, he has sadly already passed away. The reason might be related to what is left on his body and what he discovered. Thops' barrier, a sorcery that allows you to deflect sorceries and incantations by creating a magic force field. Future generations will learn. They will know the foolishness of the sneering sorcerers who ridiculed this theory, little realizing that it was in fact a discovery worthy of a new conspectus of the academy. Thops created his own spell, but not just any old spell, a spell worthy of its own school of magic. The description says this was his lifelong pursuit. This implies that he had been working on it for quite some time, and when he was ejected from the academy, he was desperate to get back in, not only because he felt like this is where he belonged, but probably because he was also really close to finishing his creation. But why did Thops die? Now, it could be directly caused by producing this magic spell. Some people mentioned that he died because he glimpsed into the primeval current. According to the academy, the primeval current is a controversial and forbidden area of study. We have evidence of how seriously they take these claims, and anyone who attempts to study it, as Master Lesat, Master Azure, and Sorceress Selen were all expelled and exiled from the academy for their association with the subject matter. In my opinion, Thops doesn't seem to be the sort of guy to venture into the taboo for the sake of knowledge. Also, he knew Selen when they both studied at the academy, and when he speaks of what she allegedly did, it doesn't sound like he agrees with that sort of practice.
But Selen was expelled from the academy, accused of unthinkable treatment of certain sorcerers, under the name of the Graven Witch. I still don't believe the accusations. The illustrious Selen would never do such things.
In addition, I don't think Thops could glimpse into the primeval current. No offense to him, but we don't even know how you would do such a thing. And if he did, I'm sure there would have been some mention of it, or at least the word primeval used in an item description or even some dialogue of his. But no. And even if he did glimpse into this cosmic horror, there is no anecdotal evidence to support that he would die from it. Lesat and Azure are explicitly stated to have seen this tremendous galactic entity, and they went a bit crazy from doing so, but didn't die. They were described as afraid, enthralled, and broken psychologically, their understanding of the world shaken. It's unclear if Selen has seen the primeval current for herself, but she certainly wants to restore it, and has a questionable at best level of sanity. Although these three sorcerers do have a higher magical aptitude than Thops, they could have handled it better than him, explaining why the mere sight of it caused him to perish. However, I don't believe that Thops has any connection to the primeval. His resulting barrier spell has no connection or basis from it. What is more plausible is that Thops died for this spell. He put his everything into making it. He worked himself stupid endlessly to make something of himself. He was given this ticket back into the academy and didn't want to squander it. Now, the more sinister theory is that Thops was murdered because of what he was working on. Now, why is this barrier spell so significant? First and foremost, the barrier can deflect sorceries and incantations, rendering many formidable attacks futile. When you cast it, incoming spells will ping off in an alternate direction. I recommend this video by Bulletnut, which showcases how invaluable Thops' barrier is at neutralizing boss attacks, most impressively against the Elden Beast. A manifestation of ancient godly power is rendered trivial against the humble creation of a man derisively labelled Bluntstone. Now, probably some of you are saying, well, that's cool and all, but Carian Retaliation exists, and it's way better than Thops' barrier. Carian Retaliation dispels incoming magic and transforms it into glint blades that retaliate, hence the name, against the caster, an offensive and defensive spell rolled into one. Much debate about Carian Retaliation's advantages, like casting time, FP cost, and animation frames, usually culminates in Why would you ever choose Thops' barrier over this? But don't listen to all of those people, you should listen to me. Choosing Carian Retaliation over Thops' barrier is akin to opting for the Lantern over the Starlight spell. Why would you choose this one when a better one exists? Well, I'll be honest, a lot about Thops' story is that it's story, it's character, it's not about min-maxing. It's about a man who was sneered at, insulted and excluded for simply not meeting the standards of others, for being different. But that doesn't mean he was an idiot, he just had strengths in other areas. Thops' barrier is an incredible feat because of who made it and what it does. I've seen critics of Thops dismiss his barrier as a worse version of Carian Retaliation, but these assumptions overlook one crucial detail. Carian Retaliation is a closely guarded secret, a weapon hidden from public knowledge. This was the Carian royal family's secret means to prepare against the disloyalty of the Academy. The moon and the stars would one day go their separate ways. The only individuals known to possess this ability are Moongrum, the Carian knight guarding Renala's boss room, and Salavus and Pidia, who sell the spell and the Ashavor in their shops. All these characters serve the Carian family, so their loyalty and association would explain why they are also armed with this secret. So the notion that Thops plagiarized Carian Retaliation seems a bit unfounded. I believe he created the spell inspired from his unique strengths. He wasn't a fighter per se, he didn't excel at DPS spell slinging. If this was something like D&D, he would be a wizard specializing in abjuration magic, casting protective spells to negate other abilities. And this is something to be celebrated and respected, as he is one of the few to synthesize such a powerful spell of this nature. There are only 3 spells like this that nullify magical attacks. You have Eternal Darkness, ancient Nox magic that literally causes a black hole that draws in any sorcery in its path. You have Carian Retaliation, a political weapon of war developed by a royal family of decorated sorcerers that use an enemy's strength against them. And then you have this guy with his magical force field. Thops' creation of this barrier may have stirred resentment among the sneering classmates or scornful sorcerers. When he returned to the Academy, they unleashed their jealousy, rage, insecurities, whatever reason why people bully others. But Thops was undeterred. Whatever abuse they threw at him, verbal or physical, it only fueled his research, driving him closer to his breakthrough. Tragically, his demise may have come at the hands of those who couldn't bear to see him succeed. After all, you do see many sorcerers close to Thops' body roaming the nearby classroom. Sadly, it is possible they could have quickly snuck up and taken him out. Or maybe this was on a much larger scale. The Academy itself orchestrated his death. While lacking the offensive capabilities of Carian Retaliation, the barrier posed a significant threat to the magic-centric institution that is the Academy. Thops may not have intended to wield his creation against the Academy itself. Instead, it was likely an expression of his unique magical aptitude, but it still diverged from the Academy's conventional teachings. I don't think Thops maliciously intended to use it against the Academy, but it didn't matter. They executed him once they saw him using their establishment and resources to create such a spell. However, discovering Thops' body with his barrier spell in hand raises some questions. If his creation was deemed so threatening as to warrant his execution, why leave the barrier spell untouched? It is a bit of a meta nitpick, I agree, but if this was the intended narrative, a more cohesive approach could have involved finding Thops' body accompanied by his research notes, which you could then present to a knowledgeable sorcerer like Selen to teach you Thops' barrier. This does take away the uniqueness and achievement from Thops though. So another way could have been that you fight one of the head sorcerers or teachers in a boss battle and they drop Thops' barrier, showing that they had confiscated it and were going to destroy or warp it into a weapon of their own. These are some holes in the theory that the Academy orchestrated his death. Alternatively, the culprit could have been a vindictive sorcerer acting alone, motivated by a personal grudge towards Thops. After finishing him off, the sorcerer was unaware of the significance of Thops' research, allowing Thops to complete his spell in the final moments, leaving it behind for you to discover. Another possibility is that Thops simply succumbed to the relentless demands of his research, working himself to exhaustion and eventual demise. This is a commentary on the toll that academia and the pursuit of knowledge can take on even the most gifted of minds. Many people we know as geniuses now were not recognized in their time. Thops is the equivalent, as his work was remarkable enough to define its own conspectus, but he will not be alive to teach it. I wanted to imagine what it would be like if there was a world where Thops' conspectus was established. I did a little drawing and editing to depict what Thops' Glintstone Crown would have looked like, as all the sorcerers who established a conspectus have their own Glintstone Crown. I wanted to highlight Thops' strengths in defense, taking the colours and purpose of his barrier spell and essentially making a giant glintstone encasing the stone head. Unlike traditional spiky glintstone crowns, Thops' crown would positively embrace his Bluntstone nickname. Solid, rock-hard, and stalwart, just like his barrier spell. While most of the other glintstone crowns have jewelled eyes, representing their sole focus on glintstone magic, I drew Thops with closed eyes, dreaming up new ideas and pushing the boundaries of conventional magic, similar to how the eyes are closed and concealed in the crowns of Selen, Pyrodus, and Hymer. Their ways are less traditional than their peers. And of course, I gave him a smile. This character struck a chord in me, and I likely projected a fair bit during this video. I don't make a habit of divulging my personal life on here, but like a lot of people, I got bullied throughout the majority of my school life. I struggled to find my place, I felt overshadowed. I did my best, but I didn't expect much, and neither did anyone else, much like how Thops' story is about recognition and self-acceptance. Make a long story short, when I went to university, I realised the importance of authenticity, as I tried too hard to please other people and appeal to what I thought they wanted from me. I finally confronted myself with the facts. I am an incredibly introverted and quiet person. I struggle to form friendships. I will always choose to stay home rather than go out, but I'm okay with that. I don't care what that says about me. I don't care that I'm not good at socializing or good at maths or even really good at video games. And that may make me a Bluntstone because of it. But there are a couple of things that I like to think I am good at. I want to think that I'm good at stories and talking about stories, and seeing people respond so positively to my videos is something very special, and I'm so lucky that people want to listen to me. Sure, I get criticism on how I talk, how I look and dress, but it doesn't bother me because this is who I am. And it took me a good amount of time to learn self-acceptance, to embrace what I like to do, regardless of how conventional, practical, or profitable it is. The important thing to remember, and what I want you who's listening to this to take away from this video, is that you can't please everyone. It's impossible. So stop trying to. Make peace with who you are, and beautiful things will come because of it. Trust me.